Ashraf Hakimi
to Real Madrid. What do we think about this one? Okay, so this came out late last night on Twitter, and the rumor goes that Real Madrid are very interested in Ashraf Hakimi. They want to bring him back to the Bernabeu. How are they going to make this happen? Because obviously, the big elephant in the room is Paris Saint-Germain, and the transfer relationship between Paris and Real Madrid is absolutely broken. It's very, very difficult for us to negotiate with them, given that they hate our guts because of Mbappe. Okay, so the report goes on to state that the plan is for Hakimi to be proactive about this and to tell Paris that he has no intention to renew. His contract currently ends in 26, so he has still got a couple of years left on his deal. But by giving Paris the impression that he has no intention to renew, he puts them in an uncomfortable position because obviously the summer coming will represent 1 year to go on his contract. So they're faced with a decision. Do you risk it and maybe the same fate happens to him the following season? Or do you come to the table to negotiate? So a lot of this is dependent on Ashraf Hakimi, but the report states that the willingness is there from the player side. And he has gone on record multiple times to say that he always hoped to return to Real Madrid to play for us again in the future. Now, it's an interesting history with Hakimi because Hakimi has already played for us. He came through under Zidane and he was very successful during that period. In fact, it was the second year that we won the Champions League, and we seem to have one team that we'd used in the Champions League and another team that we used in the league. Hakimi was part of the B team, as it was called at the time, alongside the likes of Teo Hernandez, who's now ripping it up for AC Milan, Morata, Isco, James. We had an absolutely unbelievable side, and we absolutely walked the season in the league. But he left, and the reason that he left, and a lot of Madrid fans were quite upset about this because he was very promising at the time. He left because it was too much of a luxury to have a player like that, particularly with the pandemic, and it was a way to raise easy cash. So, firstly, he went to Borussia Dortmund. He was an absolute revelation at Dortmund, and then he went to Inter Milan. He had success there, won the league title under Antonio Conte, and then finally ended up at Paris Saint Germain. And obviously, he's won trophies there as well. So it seems that wherever he's gone, he's been hugely successful. It's not a coincidence. This guy is extremely talented, and he is regarded as one of the best right backs on the planet. Although there is a little bit of skepticism about him as to whether he works best in a four or in a five. But the same accusation could have been levelled at Antonio Rudiger. Indeed, Chelsea fans used to say that he doesn't work well as a two. You need to have him in a three to get the best out of him because he's a little bit suspect defensively. As it turned out, that's been completely disproved. At Real Madrid, he has performed incredibly well. He's an absolute colossus at the back and easily our best centre back. So I have no doubts that he can operate in a four. Here's the thing. On the one hand, you've got the fact that he's already played for Real Madrid, the fact that he wants to play for us. So he's got that willingness, he's got that desire. He knows some of the players. For example, he was incredibly close with Kylian Mbappe when they played together at Paris Saint-Germain. I have no doubt that he would fit seamlessly into this side. However, and here's the thing. Number one, there's a couple of variables involved. Paris could, in theory, decide, no, we're not negotiating with you, he stays. You don't want to go? Okay, fine, you leave the following season for nothing, no problem. That could happen. That's realistic. Given the circumstances with Mbappe, it's possible. However, if the report is to be believed, then Real Madrid see it as an opportunity to build bridges, to enable Paris to come to the table and say, do you know what, we're interested in one of your players. Please let it be Danny Ceballos. That'd be quite nice, actually. Like, you've always wanted him, let's be honest, right? Something like that. But it opens the door again and it rebuilds that relationship. So that's an attractive point. But here's the thing. When I think about this, I think incredible footballer, scored and assisted really well last season. I think he had 12 in all competitions, combined goals and assists, which are really good figures for a fullback. Of course they are. So he would add something to our team. It makes us more adventurous going forward. The problem that I have is that if you are considering bringing Ashraf Hakimi to the club, how can you neglect the possibility to bring in Trent Alexander-Arnold, and who is the better of the two? This is a debate that a lot of people have had because when you talk about the best right back in the world, arguably we've already got him. Arguably it's Danny Carvajal, who's been Mr. Consistent. He's incredible defensively, but he's the wrong side of 30. So the club do have to explore the future in terms of long-term planning. And these two are the standouts. In world football today, you'd be hard-pressed to find a right back who comes into the conversation alongside Trent Alexander-Arnold and Ashraf Hakimi. So what are the differences? Okay, Ashraf Hakimi, you could argue, has more pace. He's got a lot more willingness to go past the man, create a bit more width. On the other hand, Trent Alexander-Arnold possesses a passing range which, quite frankly, in this world right now, I don't think many players come close to him. In fact, I'd even go as far as to say that at one stage when Toni Kroos left, that was the name that I thought of immediately. Not purely because he's been used as an inverted fullback and he's been in the centre and he can spray the passes, but because he's got that range to his game. And as we've said previously, if you're going to play with players like Vinicius Junior, Mbappe as your forwards, you need players that can hit those passes to release them early. Trent gives you that in abundance. Ironically enough, when I was looking at my comparison to prep for this video, he had the same goal involvement as Hakimi last season. Exactly the same. Distribution was slightly off, but it was still 12 involvements, which are, again, very good numbers. So let's compare another metric. Injury, propensity to get injured during the season. They've both had injury woes over the years. You could argue that Trent has had more. Okay, so that's one possible point to go against him. But is it enough to deter you from pursuing a move for him? Because, like we've already said, Hakimi would fit straight into that dressing room. Who's to say that Trent wouldn't? He'd get on well with Carlo Ancelotti. I have no doubt about that. Carlo speaks perfect English. He's best mates with a certain Jude Bellingham, who is no doubt in his ear every 5 seconds telling him to come to Real Madrid. But you can bet your bottom dollar that Mbappe is doing exactly the same thing with Hakimi. So who knows? Who knows what's going to happen? But I would be interested to see your thoughts, because here's the thing. Although they both give you a slightly more offensive side on the right wing, they have a different skill set. So I'd be interested to know what you think. I'm not sure. When I think about this, I feel like either of them give you something that you don't have currently. So they're both not necessarily an upgrade, because Carvajal is an incredible footballer, but they allow you to play a different style of football. You could argue that Hakimi is the better fit, but Trent is the wild card. Trent is the player that can unlock a defence at the drop of a hat. He's the player who I feel will allow you to get the most out of Kylian Mbappe. And that's coming from the perspective that those two already have an incredible relationship. So I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I really haven't decided on this one. But it's a nice question to have. You could argue that if Paris turn around and say, right, he's yours, 80 million, that's what it's going to cost. We leave him, we go for Trent. Simple as that. But is that to say that we never come back in for him? Is there a world in which we've got both of them at the club? Possibly. If you sign Trent on a free transfer next summer and then Hakimi sits tight and arrives the following summer. I know this is fantasy league stuff, but it's worth considering. Why not? They're players that are linked to us. We might as well have the conversation. There is a world in which those two are your right backs going forward, because let's be honest, Vasquez is 33, Carvajal is 32. They're not going to be around forever. They will be on 1 year rolling contracts. So it's worth thinking about in the very least. Anyway, let me know your thoughts. And if you did enjoy this content, please consider subscribing to the channel. Take care.